Hi, I'm Amita, and I'm summarizing Chapter 10 of Zygmunt, Coercive and Coercion and its Fallout. So, Zygmunt starts the chapter by discussing that avoidance has many different forms it could take, some with higher levels of intervention that might be needed. Oftentimes, we avoid without even recognizing that we're avoiding. So, when we do not want to undergo a specific experience, oftentimes we will also ensure we are avoiding that shocks or situations where we might be feeling less safe as one of the types of avoidance. There are different types of avoidance that can be noted. Some types of avoidance that may be seen as more troublesome may be situations in which the shock can cause further harm, while other types of avoidance may be seen as looking for control or foresight as the influence. So throughout the chapter, there's 5 different types of avoidance that were discussed. So the first one is adaptive avoidance. Second type is staying out of the world. Third type is it's not my problem. Fourth time is who will blow the whistle. And 5 is if it sells, it must be good. So when thinking about adaptive avoidance, the first type is we think about how to plan specific ways to avoid unpleasant situations or environments that we might not want to be a part of. For example, in the book, we discusses how in cold weather, we make sure we wear more layers of clothing. Another example stated was that we work to ensure that we are safe when driving when wearing a seat belt. That it prevents us from going through a windshield and getting intensive injuries. So in all, we are adapting to a specific environment and or a situation to avoid a specific consequence. For adaptive avoidance, it is seen as being more naturalistic to ensure we prepare for how to avoid an adverse behavior or situation or consequence from occurring. So again, like some of the different examples discussed in the section, we talked a lot about like drug use, weight loss, pregnancy risks, and misusing substances throughout. So for me, I felt I was spoken to when the chapter brought up weight loss and how it's not necessarily the individual's fault and lack of self-control, but evaluating how the environment is playing a role on the specific individual. So our environment has established a supportive environment to ensure the weight loss is how weight loss really does ensure that it's happening. At times, as an outsider, such as a physician or outside supporters like a private psychiatrist or psychologist, you might not see where all the environmental factors are occurring. Thus, it's important to ensure that you do take the time to evaluate the environment where those specific behaviors are occurring. This will provide you with a full picture on understanding the challenge and knowing where the appropriate interventions may be needed. When control of the environment is achieved, appropriate adjustments to the behavior can be identified. The second type of avoidance discussed was staying out of the world. So the biggest idea is personally linked to removing toxic or abusive relationships within my own life, is like how I clung into that idea. So Zygmunt discusses it through a lens of individuals who may leave a specific community, so specifically like the Amish community, as a way to remove themselves from one world and learn to live in a world within another reality or environment that it might align better with their beliefs at that time. So in these situations, individuals are escaping from one environment. They want to be removed and avoid that specific environment, so the function is escape. The key to thinking about staying out of the world is considering how one may want to break away from a previously aversive environment. So what is important within this type of avoidance is the goal to escape from the initial aversive behavior. After enough time passes, new aversive behaviors, so unrelated, may evoke as a result. So after enough time passes, these behaviors occur. So although individuals may avoid the initial situation, so avoid families and schools demands as time goes on, if they dropped out of school, they also now need to adjust to a different lifestyle or not having the money or environment, and also the stigmas when applying to jobs. So this process is also considered delayed shock. So in order to evaluate and support avoidance in the realm of staying out of the world, it is also important to recognize and understand what the preventing the function within the original environment. So what made the whole behavior occur, and why did they leave? Versus what is making them thrive in their new environment. Moving on, the next type of avoidance is it's not my problem. This is something we see within schools a lot, with different staff members. Within the context of the chapter, it was kind of considered to be relevant in the terms of passing the buck, or this is your responsibility, this is your responsibility. This is an area where many people might refuse to take responsibility and support why a specific behavior may be occurring or blame a different stimuli. So a key example through the lens in which Sidman took was considering why one's vote might not matter and not choosing not to register to vote or going to vote. What I appreciated in this chapter was the other side of this, and also thinking of the lens of someone who's homeless. So people will often say they chose to be lazy, or they are using all the money they accumulate on the streets for drugs or alcohol. And so that's why it's not my problem. It's a lack of recognizing the overarching stimuli which is driving the certain responses. The next section was on who will blow my whistle. So essentially, who will blow the whistle? So essentially, who will snitch? Who will call someone out? So blowing the whistle can be considered to be identified in which where the individual is made aware of the behavior and the behavior is also identified by another individual. So no one wants to be the snitch among the group. So as we try to interview students following a fight or a negative situation, no one wants to be the one to share the information that no one else in the group did that would make someone feel guilty or look guilty in a situation that might be their friend. So we have seen this a lot in the military when we have the concept of don't ask, don't tell. So this avoidance style thinks about looking away even when you identify what's being done is wrong. So what really is focused on is the strength of a stronger power and levels of power within a system. So the last area within Sidman's chapter is if it sells, it must be good. So the idea makes us think about marketing, taxes, large corporations, and products, and think about what we sell and how do we sell it, and what contingencies need to be in place for someone to sell an item. And through this lens, I often think about how individualized motives play a role versus overarching goals that could have been set. So this happens within a corporate, and a lot due to the fact that patient care isn't always the primary focus, but instead selling how many of whatever item it is, or product, or prescription, and how you market it. Although there was an intent for why a mission was created behind an organization, with the influence of other factors such as money or removal of certain demands that result in avoidance, choices were adjusted. So throughout this chapter, I had an overarching question that kept coming up for me, and it was, what types of avoidance do you engage in and how? And have you found ways to intervene with your avoidance that have been successful for you or for other individuals you work with or go habitat with? Thank you.